Once again, welcome. This is the Voices 60 Plus Senior Advocacy Programs presentation, which includes an overview of our program overall. And we also have a special presentation on advanced pet care by Robin Strashun from Search and Care. Just a few housekeeping tips before we get started. We ask that you remain on mute unless you're speaking. We also encourage you to use the chat box in case you have any comments or questions, but there will be time allotted at the end to address any questions you may have. And there will be a link to the Voices 60 Plus's annual survey that will be shared in the chat. We plan on sharing some information that we've received so far based on what people have completed, but we encourage you, if you have not gotten a chance to complete the survey, to share your feedback with us as well. And then at the very end of the presentation, there will be a very short evaluation so you can share your feedback on today's presentation. And I'm also excited to share that we will be holding a few raffles today. So I want to make sure that you all listen out for that. So before I introduce Robin Strashun, for those of you who are not familiar with me, my name is Nadia Murphy. I'm the manager of the Voices 60 Plus Senior Advocacy Program here at Hospital for Special Surgery. Robin has worked at Search and Care for 20 years, helping older adults through outreach, intergenerational volunteers, medical escorts, and Pets and Elders Together, which earned the ASPCA's Heroes in Human Service Award in 2019. She served on Metropolitan Hospital's Community Advisory Board and received their Petra a Land Advocate Award. And she's an active public member of East Harlem's Community Board 11's Health and Human Services Committee since 2012, as well as the Community Board 7's Senior Task Force. It is my honor to welcome Robin, and I will stop sharing my screen so that she can share her presentation.
Good morning. I hope you can all hear me. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. And I'm excited because this is something that I'm very passionate about. And I take it you are too, because I don't think you'd be coming today unless you had some interest in pets and just how important they are. Pets do so much for us. They're really like a great drug without a prescription. And if you have a pet, you know that it's not just the dog, the cat, the bird, whatever. It's your family member, and it's a being that you're responsible for, and it's a wonderful relationship that goes to and from. It's probably the purest form of love that I could think of. And I'm assuming those of you that are here today have either a dog, a cat, or a bird. There may be other kinds of pets. I'm not really sure. You might want to put them in the chat if I haven't covered what kind of pet you have. Our local state senator, Senator Kruger, had her annual resource fair yesterday. And I met with one of the attendees who had a pet that I'd never heard of anybody owning before. She had chinchillas. So there's a whole variety of pet owners out there. And one of the pleasures I get in my work is happily helping to support pet owners, enabling not only our clients to age in place, but to help their pets age in place alongside of them. The people you see photographed here are all clients of Search and Care. We're a small community social service agency serving the Upper East Side and the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We've been doing that since 1972. Search and Care, I think it's a name that our founders gave us, kind of says what we do. We seek out people in the community who need our services. And I'm glad that it supports both people and pets. Um, just parenthetically, that relationship is just so important. This is actually a picture of my husband's grandmother, Grammy Lane, who lived in Maine. And when I was studying gerontology, we did a lot of surveys with older adults, and I used to use her very often in my surveys. And I asked her, Grammy, is there anything, do you have any, she was 98 at the time, do you have any regrets in life? And she said, well, there's one thing I kind of feel sorry about. And that is that more than missing my late parents or my husband, I miss my last cat the most. So we went up one Thanksgiving, we brought our cats 8 hours all the way up to Maine to visit Grammy Lane. And that's one of our cats, Petey. And of course, after that visit and our weekly phone calls, the first thing she asked about was, how is Petey? So we understand that relationship is like no other. These are some of the things we do for our clients who have pets. We're talking about the most important thing, I think, right now, here today, advanced pet planning. We do a lot of advanced planning for ourselves. As we get older, we make wills, we establish healthcare proxies. What we're talking about today is sort of similar for our pets. One of the things that I do in helping our clients is look for expanding resources in the community. We're lucky that we have some funders who give us money to help towards vet costs. So some of the vets we work with most often, even though they're corporate, are giving us discounts, which is great. And we have a financial support service here called Money Matters, which is really important. If our mission is to help people stay in their homes as long as safely possible, at some point with some clients, we get involved with understanding how their bills are paid, because if you're not paying your rent, you may no longer have a home. And we do have workshops throughout the year where we sometimes invite pet professionals to talk about behavioral issues, for example. We got together 2 weeks ago and together watched a number of videos about the importance of vaccinations. As pet owners, it's really important to understand what are quote unquote core vaccines, meaning what are the vaccines that are really necessary, that are some are required by law and some are absolutely necessary for the health of your pet. And if you're a dog owner, you would also know that Bordetella is among those, because you can't get groomed without a certificate showing that you've had that. So my goal today is to help you think about creating an emergency contact plan for your pet. That's what we call advanced pet planning. And here's me with some of my pets. You might recognize Petey. It's wonderful to bring them into your home, and I really think your home is much richer if you're able to do that. It's amazing to me that a third of the pet owners in this country are over the age of 60, and since your group is 60 plus, that applies to you, which is why I'm so glad to see so many of you turned out for this presentation. And by the way, if you're attending today as a professional social worker or care manager or healthcare provider, this can also be helpful to you in working with your clients, because at some point you may be responsible for helping solve situations that are pet related. It's actually documented that for pet owners, regardless of their age, people often put on getting their health care needs taken care of if there are pets in the house that there is no plan for. Put off hospitalizations, put off testing, etc., because there is no advanced pet plan. And that's really detrimental to you, and it's detrimental ultimately to your relationship with your pet, because we want you to stay around longer and both of you have a good long life together. So as it says, without a plan in place, the ability of that pet to remain or be reunited with you after a hospitalization is at risk. And the last thing, frankly, that any pet owner wants is to see their pet brought to a shelter. Right now, today, the likelihood of that pet leaving the shelter is very minimal. That's one of the reasons why this is so important. We don't want to see loved, homed pets going to the shelter system. And there may be crises that are totally out of our control. Thank goodness none of us in Jamaica right now with flooding, and we haven't had a Hurricane Sandy here in quite some time. But if you're hospitalized or maybe even during COVID, there may be situations that you weren't prepared for, and advanced planning helps alleviate those crises. So in my profession, working with older adults, we often talk about advanced directives. Um, and you should also have that conversation with your healthcare proxy. So that's really taking care of your advanced needs. But what about the advanced needs of your pet? What if something happens to you? What's in place to protect that pet so that it can remain in your home or there for you when you come back? So another word for a pet owner is a guardian. And I love that word because it symbolizes responsibility. For some reason, a lot of people don't think about that until it's really almost too late. So one might be the best time to make a plan, to think about it. And frankly, it's right now, today, right this very day. And you can't do it when you're in a crisis. It's really too late. So there's two tools I want to share with you. This is a template. It's just a suggestion. And it's a document. And it's really good to think about putting any of this information up of the plan that you're creating in writing. And this is a great layout because it shows that you, the guardian, is giving the authority to the person that you designate as your pet's emergency contact to be responsible for them in your stead. And you can add information to that, your contact information, information about your pets, who the vet is, any information that you might want to add, such as maybe allergies or health issues about your pet, or is your pet not good with other dogs? Is it a known biter? That's really significant information. And once you have that kind of document, it's great to share it because you will go on record with a number of other entities about what your plans are. And I'll get to who those people are in a minute. But let's talk about back step for a minute. How do you get to identifying an appropriate person to take care of your pet? Some people are very fortunate and have fabulous neighbors who are always there for you and willing to take care of your pet on a temporary basis. What happens if you're hospitalized and go to rehab and you're not home for a month or two? Who would be that person? So you might want to think about identifying at least one person, but maybe two, one long-term, one short-term. And who would that person be if it's not your neighbor? A friend, a family member? Who has shown interest in your pet within the last year or two? And working with a client who was divorced, he said to me, the only person who's ever loved my dog more than me was my wife. And she was the only person he could think of that would possibly take on that responsibility. I encouraged him to speak to her. He hadn't talked to her in 2 years. And she said, of course, I love the dog even more than I've ever loved you. So that was a really good win. Other people have thought about the idea of leaving money in their will for care of their pet, which is probably a great incentive to have somebody say yes. And if you don't have a person, there might be an organization, a nonprofit that's willing to take on your pet. I understand the Humane Society may do that, with a certain agreement in terms of what an appropriate amount of money might be. So there are options. If you think there are none, there always are options. And as I said, you might want to think about not one, but two different people, one for short-term needs, one for long-term needs. Then you're also going to want to talk about what your pet, and familiarize that person with your pet. For example, who is the vet that has records of your pet's healthcare history? If you don't have them all, if you haven't saved every receipt, do you have copies of vaccinations? Do you have all that documentation? One of the main questions you're going to be asked is your pet neutered or spayed? That's really important. You may not remember. Very often they come to you that way, but they don't always. What does your pet love to eat? What's its favorite treat? I know some of us feed treats to pets on a regular basis. Your vet may say not to do that, but I understand. Is your pet on any medication? If so, is it a pill form? Is it liquid form? I don't know if you're aware, but there are two. We're very lucky in this city. We have so many major institutions and supports for pets. There are not one but two pet-specific pharmacies that are called compound pharmacies, meaning they make up specific formulations for pets. One of my cats was on on prednisone, as I am too. I got it in liquid form because he hated taking a pill. You can get different flavors. You can get chicken, you can get steak, you can get tuna. It's so interesting. Um, and then if it's a dog, how often do you walk it? Once in the morning, once in the evening. Is it crate trained? Where does your pet sleep? If you're lucky, I think your pet might sleep with you. They might not sleep with you. They might sleep on a bed on the floor. What is your pet's favorite thing to do? Like, does it like toys? If it's a cat, does it love the laser toy? Does it like, if it's a dog, when you're walking it, how is it with other dogs around it? Does it go after small dogs? How is it in the dog park? And those are some of the warnings, especially. And what is your view on euthanasia? Almost every single pet owner I've ever spoken to have said, I would never want my pet to suffer. And yet, facing that decision is one of the most difficult things you can do as a pet owner. And sometimes it's the only right thing to do as a pet owner. I understand. I've been there. It's also vital when you have that person and you have the plan created, there needs to be somebody you can trust to give them the keys to your home. That's how much you need to trust this person. You can go through all this documentation, and without the keys, how are they going to get in? So let's say that you have created this wonderful template. You finally have gotten the person to agree to, ideally, the long-term plan, because there's no determining sometimes how long you're going to be out of the community. So you've got your template written up, and now you're going to want to share it with any of these entities. Perhaps your family members, perhaps friends or neighbors, your own veterinarian, so the veterinarian's aware. But the most important, I think, on this list is building management. Here in Manhattan, if you live in a building with any kind of staff, you're not going to be let in unless management knows that you've given the person permission to enter your apartment. It would be a travesty to go through all this and not have, to think of it like dotted this I. This is a really important part of making your plan work. And it's great. This is such an important step in advanced planning to make sure that your person has access to your home and your pet at any time, not just, at the time of crisis, but any time, because you don't know when that's going to happen. And I'd be happy to share that template with anybody who's interested, as well as we have wallet cards, which I think is a really helpful tool for you to have. Once you've created your plan, I'd be happy to send anybody who contacts me a wallet card for their personal use. It's two-sided. It's really that small. So you have to write small as well. But it lays out pretty much the same information that's on the larger template. And what this does is, if EMS is looking in your wallet for identification or any other information, they'll see this. They'll be notified that you have pets at home and who is your emergency contact. I think it's a really smart thing to do. And these are available to you. You can also, if you're an older person, let's say you're frail, living alone, and you've gone through the efforts of establishing a healthcare proxy. You may have a DNR, which is a do not resuscitate advance directive. Sometimes people put them on the refrigerator. You might also make a copy of this and put it on your refrigerator as well. That would be really helpful. But I'll share my contact information with you, and you can call me at 212-289-5300, extension 203. I don't care where you live for this. I'm happy to share this with you. In terms of our services, however, as an agency, we're limited to the Upper East and Upper West Side, but I'm happy to share tools that will help any pet owner make an advanced plan for their pet or pets. So once you've done this, there'll be, to me, it's a relief to know that you've created a plan that's specific to your pet. So I would hope this would take away some anxiety from you. God knows we live in such a stressful world. Any little thing that relieves some stressor is so important. And the great thing about you doing this is that you're in charge here. How much control do we have over anything in our lives? This is something that you, as a pet owner, as a pet guardian, do control. Important to me, as I would hope important to you, is the prevention of a beloved pet from going into the shelter system. If you're on social media and you get any of these local community social media sites sent to you, like Nextdoor, constantly barraged with, this pet is going to be euthanized unless somebody picks it up today. Or I found this pregnant cat in the neighborhood and I don't want to take it to a shelter because it'll never come out. Can somebody please adopt it? I can't even open up those emails anymore. And lastly, with your clever planning, your family is freed, unless they're the ones who are going to be responsible, they're freed from the responsibility of finding solution during the crisis. It's hard enough to deal with what else is going on with your family trying to attend to you, in addition to trying to figure out how to rehome a dog or a cat. And this is a quote from my favorite comedian, Amy Sedaris. Sometimes losing a pet is more painful than losing a human because, in the case of the pet, you are not pretending to love it. And here is a woman whose pet was a beloved rabbit. I know of people that I work with who've had rabbits as pets. I just couldn't imagine it for myself, but I understand they're really fabulous pets. So thank you for listening to me. That is a presentation largely about advanced pet planning, and I'm going to welcome your questions when we conclude.